Hi, I'm Alan, and this is Prayers to the Dice Gods. And today we were going to do Space Wolves. Unfortunately, after spending many hours filming, once I got into editing, I realised that half of the footage was unusable as I wasn't on camera painting anything. It was just filming my cutting mat. Exciting stuff. So instead, we've got a different project for you.
Prayers to the Dice Gods.
Right, so this project is based off of the poster behind me. This was out of the Conquest Magazine. What it shows is 90 odd chapters of Space Marines, every single one of them different. And my idea is to paint, well, to not only paint every single one of those models in each of those chapters, but to do a display case laid out exactly the same way as the poster. So we're going to start out with the Angels of Redemption. Instead of spending weeks doing the same colour schemes, we're going to split that up and we're going to do different ones. And as this progresses, if you would like to make a comment as to which one you'd like to see done next, please feel free in the comments below. Alright, so straight off the bat, I've almost screwed this up. I'm using an Army Painter green. For some reason, I have found it very difficult to get hold of Caliban green at GW. So the only ones I've got that come close are Army Painter paint. And as you can tell, I put it on and it looked horrendous. And then I realised quite quick that that was going to take probably about 40 coats to go nicely over a grey undercoat. So the base coat here is a Vallejo colour. It is the US dark green. This is, as far as I'm concerned, an amazing paint. It covers really well. 2 thin coats over. Did a fantastic job. Gave us a nice solid base for the Army Painter dark Angel Green to go over the top to make it look like Caliban. The only problem we had here was the Angels of Redemption are split straight down the middle. They are 2 completely separate colours. Now, the fun part of that normally with the older Space Marine was, in general, everything was lined up. It went in one straight line down the middle. So you could just literally get your paintbrush and paint a straight line down the middle. With these new dynamic poses, that's a lot more difficult. So his head tilts one way, the top of his torso tilts another, while the bottom of the torso is facing yet another direction, and then you have the legs. So each piece had to be done individually as its own piece. So it wasn't just like drawing a straight line. So I had to do one for the helmet, so split that in 2. Then the top of the torso, so right down to underneath the crest in the middle. And then the smaller plate underneath, which points in a slightly different direction, had to be done on its own yet again before finally doing the legs. One of the keys to doing this line is to try and keep that line as neat as possible. We're starting with the green just because I find that easier to follow because I can see it better than I can the sort of creamy bone colour that we're going to use. So I start with the green, but the bone colour won't cover that over very well if you make a mistake. So here you need to be as neat as you possibly can, otherwise you'll find you'll need to add about 4 more coats of the cream in order to cover that little patch of green that might have gone over. So here I've opted to use the Army Painter brush that came with the paint set just because it seems to hold quite a lot of fluid quite well. So when I'm doing base coats I find that quite handy. It means I don't have to go back to my wet palette quite so often in order to keep the paint flowing, which is really handy when you're trying to get a perfect line down the middle of a model. So as we finally get on to adding the angel green to the model over the top of our Vallejo dark green, you'll notice that the coverage is pretty solid immediately as soon as it's going on. One of the things with the paints is if you can find the right base to put a particular colour on, you'll find that the coverage on it is absolutely fantastic, and it doesn't matter what brand of paint that is. It's literally just a case of finding which base works well with what colours. For this particular one, I've used it before, should have done it straight away, but it's good to be able to show you that it's easy to make a mistake by trying to use the wrong paints on the wrong things. This is one of those parts with a slight oversight. Painting black into fiddly little areas when you've just painted cream and green, and the black will trash both of those pretty quickly. We still managed to do it. We just switched to a smaller brush, got in there, made sure that we cleaned up any messes we made straight away. So dampening a damp brush just to wipe away any paint that went where it wasn't supposed to go. It came up pretty well. So next we're on to painting the silver. The silver is another Vallejo one. I quite like this one because it's kind of blue silver. This I try to be as neat as I possibly can with, just because of the areas it's going on to. Again, you get silver onto a cream area or even the green area, the black area, it all starts to look a little bit odd. So I try to be as neat as possible. Of course that doesn't always work, but we can, particularly with the black, we can just go over it again with the black and you'll never even know it happened. We've moved on to the brown. We're going to paint all of the bits that we want to look like leather, so all of the pouches and the belts. Now we're painting the red bits. This is the iconography on the chest, the side of the gun, as well as the base coat for the purity seal, as well as the lenses on the helmet. Next up, just going around giving the bone colour a second coat. It was looking a little bit thin and patchy in places, so there's just to neaten it up a bit before I begin the highlighting. This is one of my favourite parts of the paint job. I am doing the pin wash. Now I've discovered a neat little trick to make this nice and easy, so particularly with acrylic paints. So what I do is I actually get the Vallejo glaze medium, which I can't find much of a use for, to be fair, and I paint that over the recesses on the model, and then I dip my brush into here while using sepia wash, then just pricking that onto the recesses and then let it run round. We do the same thing for the green, only we use the Nuln Oil black wash instead, and while we're at it we go around and give all of the silver parts a quick wash. Now we begin the highlighting. This is done in two stages. So the first is an edge highlight that goes around pretty much the entire model, and then the next lot of highlights is done in an even lighter colour which is then done in selective areas. So it gives the idea of some sort of light source, maybe at a basic level, just to give a little bit of shine along some of the edges. Now for the scanner, I've literally just put a tiny bit of green paint in there, and I'm now going to put some interest in by drawing some curved lines around and a couple of dots, just to make it look like he's actually looking at a scanner. Here we're doing the same thing as the armour. We're going to do progressively lighter shades of reds, getting further and further out on the chest piece, and on the gun icon we are going to go further up as we add the highlights, just so that it sort of simulates light hitting that part of the model. Next up, we're highlighting the black. This is just done with a couple of progressively lighter layers of grey. The last part of the model to do is the knee pad, which is separated into quarters, two of those being white, one being green, the other one being black. We're just going to sketch this, try and get a nice neat line going down the middle and then going across, and then blocking in those colours. So I realise as we get to the end of this that there's a couple of bits that appear to have been missed out or cut out of the video. I did actually use a black wash on the red parts before highlighting them, and the purity seal was actually done with Screamer Pink, where it progressively got lighter. I can find the footage out somewhere, but this video is already late, so I'm going to finish it off without it. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon so that you get all of the notifications as and when the new videos are released. The dice gods favour the painted army,